I'm doing a new series at 77. Plus, I'm doing this Spider's Web talk show here. And as I said earlier, we are here to how would you say it? Entertain millenniums and the baby boomer set, because we need to have our own discussions about all kinds of things going on in the world: music, sports, health, creativity, all kinds of things. And I think of Tony Bennett, 90-something years old. This guy's still performing, and he's working with young blood all the time. So those things are happening. Listen, got to tell you now. I want to introduce a gentleman who, as I said, is a painter. So if you enjoy painting or you want to learn how to paint, I've got a gentleman. Is he ready to come up here yet? He'll be ready in a second. As I said, there's only me here with a camera and one guy doing his thing. So get on. I don't need these anymore either.
Okay, yeah. Let's go.
At any rate, I want to bring him up now. Mario, where are you? Mario Ricci, ladies and gentlemen. Glad to have you, my man.
Nice to meet you. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet me. Yeah. Hey, listen, bring the camera, okay? One of the things here we do is we tell the truth. He's a great friend of mine, a personal friend, but I've always admired his work as a painter. And it just, it blows my mind to watch you. I've watched you every once in a while. And there's so many questions I'd love to ask you about it. First of all, let's bring a couple of these paintings. Which one do you want to bring us up first?
Since
How about the boxing gloves?
I was going to say, since you're a boxer, of course, let's go.
Boxer?
So you're talking about Muhammad Ali.
Hey, check this out. He calls me boxer. I felt more like a poodle.
I wouldn't fight you, sir. I still wouldn't fight you.
Man. Hey, would you believe that we're on 12 social media platforms all across the world? So a lot of people are watching. I just got some beautiful emails in already. But by the way, if you want to touch base with me for now, you can reach me spiderjones@rogers.com. If you have questions, you got issues you want to discuss, but you got to keep it positive. There's enough negative stuff going on. If you want to keep it positive, fine. You want to talk about a favorite movie, you want to talk about a favorite song, a favorite boxing match, or you want to talk about how you began your second career. Because there's a whole lot of people starting second careers now, or looking to. We're going to talk about all that. Come on up here, Mario. Mario Ricci.
How would put that between us?
Wow. Look at that, a pair of boxing gloves.
Well, this came from when we were talking about Muhammad Ali.
Yeah.
And one of the things I did is when he passed away, as you know personally, he wore red Everlast gloves. And when he did pass away, I thought it was appropriate just to make him black. And I did it as a sign of mourning. And this is one of my favorite paintings, also my wife, so I've taken this out of her exercise room. So
Your wife?
she works out, yeah, so she wants
Her name is?
Her name is Gail, and she wants the painting back, so. Yeah.
Hey, now, were you a fan of Ali's?
Oh, who isn't a fan of Ali? I mean, the guy's incredible. He's one of the most incredible fighters in the world. And not just a fighter.
But you're Italian, right?
I'm Italian, yeah.
Now, do you think that Ali would have beat Marciano?
We're ready to scratch here. I don't know. You know what? I don't think so. I think they're completely different styles. I think Ali was just in a league of his own. He's just an incredible human being. I don't,
Well, Marciano, too, by the way. I mean, he was small. Today, he would have been a cruiserweight, and a great cruiserweight, because this guy could punch. I remember that right hand he calls her old Susie Q. And it made you forget everything.
Yeah. But look at Ali. I didn't think it did Ali.
Now, how long did it take you to do this?
This is an interesting painting. I wanted to bring up something. When I came up with this idea, I was discussing with a friend of mine, and who you happen to know is Marco Vestager, Marco Sharp.
Yeah.
And I said to
Marco,
Marco, I want to.
great photographer.
Phenomenal. Well, because of him, this is why this thing
You talk about Marco Sharp. I mean, there's a guy that photographed everybody from Hulk Hogan and Mike Tyson, Sugar Ray Leonard, to all the big names, the big bands. Marco Sharp did all that.
Every time I post an image on Instagram, and Marco will say something, and of course he's met the person, which is incredible. But Marco and I were discussing. I think we were in our backyard one day, and I said I wanted to do these gloves, but I didn't have the right reference, because you can't just go online and steal images. You have to do something yourself. Mm-hmm. So Marco actually went downtown and found found an old pair of gloves that he shot, a small black and white picture for me. So we sort of worked on it together. Again, a lot of that came from his inspiration. So I ended up painting it a lot larger. And I know you can't really tell on screen, but there's a lot of texture in here. These things just look like they've been worn out in the museum.
Sean, are we getting a good shot on this here? Good,
Shine
good.
coming off it.
Sean's our producer, director, executive
Does
director,
everything here.
our water guy, he's everything here, folks. We're doing this on a shoestring budget, or on a boxing string budget.
Boxing shoes, yeah, boxing glove. But yeah, so it was a great painting. It was just a lot of fun to. How long it took? It could have been anywhere from a week to 2 weeks. It really depends how how much time you're putting into it. If you're going to stand there all day and do it, sometimes you work for about half an hour and you realize it's not working out. You walk away from it for a while. You might come back, get a coffee, do something, come back, go in the garden.
Your painters, I mean, I know as a writer, I often get, you get the writer's block.
Oh, absolutely.
Is that what painters do?
Almost all the time. Almost all the time. I think we talk to any artist, anytime we start anything, and even when I was in my previous career as an advertising art director, the first thing you think of before you start is if you're completely washed up and I'm never going to come up with anything again. And then once you start getting over that fear, start to do something, even a first brush stroke, and all of a sudden you go, oh, wait a sec, and you completely lose yourself. And then next thing you know, you're immersed in a painting, and you're gone for 3 or 4 hours. You haven't had lunch. You get really, really involved. I think art is like that for a lot of people. I mean, there's a fear. Some people can approach a painting as a work thing. They start at 9 o'clock in the morning, they work all day. I can't. I'm too absent-minded. I mean, I'll start something for 20 minutes, and there may be a bird at the window that I have to go look at. And then I come back 15 minutes later and go, yeah. And it's complete, my life is a complete distraction.
You know what? You're not alone there. Many of us are. I know I'm the same way. When I'm writing, it took me 10 years to write one book.
That's pretty good.
And I remember my wife joking with me one day. She said, when you start by the time you finish your second book, our granddaughter will be growing up. That's a joke, but I got it done.
I've done paintings. I have one painting, and I don't.
Let's take this and bring us something else. But I just before I do, I may use this on my new book, The Predator Within, because I think this goes great. Because boxing, to me, is a metaphor for life.
Exactly.
I mean, any great fighter you have seen, Rocky Marciano, Muhammad Ali, Sugar Ray Robinson, Oscar de la Hoya, you name them, Evander Holyfield, they've climbed off the canvas to get back into the fight to win. And I think life's like that, and that's the one thing I've taken away from boxing after all the years I spent in it, because I didn't do well in the game, but I made a lot of contacts, and I learned one thing: you get knocked down, you get back up and into the fight, no matter what you're doing. Let's go. Let's see what else you got for us.
I'm gonna go from boxing. How about we go to some animals?
Yeah, let's go to some animals. Look at whoa! I'm an animal. You just see? Watch that body hook. Boom, boom. Oh, I exercise a lot, but this guy does everything. I mean, he does family portraits. I saw him do a portrait of a mother for her children, and now they're fighting over it. But that's crazy. Oh wow, well, that's beautiful.
This is Flint. This is my dog Flint. This is one of the first dog portraits I ever did. And you were asking me about how long does it take to do a painting. I was in my room. I was doing something one day, and he, like most of us who've got dogs, they have a favorite chair, and you can't get them off it. So he jumped up on my chair, and he was just gazing out the window. And this probably took half an hour. It was just that fast. It was just something about him. I captured him really, really quickly. I didn't hesitate.
Creative spirit just kicked in the first gear.
Especially with this one. Yeah, he was a special little guy and stuff. And he liked my Art Deco 1938 reclining chair here. He just would not never get off of this thing. It became his chair.
You know what? And I visit many times with personal friends, and I remember your dogs and how you. We're both dog lovers, folks. I mean, to me, if you don't love a dog or a cat, there's something wrong with you. I hate to say it, but it's the truth. But I remember these dogs, and you adopted these dogs, did you not?
This dog, well, I've had 2 dogs. You knew Bella, the other dog.
Yeah.
Flint was,
Bella stands for beautiful.
well, in Italian, yes.
Yes.
My mom, every time I took her to my mom's house, she would say, "Oh my God, what's that dog?" It's
Bella.
And I go, "That's her name. It's Bella." But Flint was from Moosonee, Ontario, and
there is a charity, dog charity. It's called the Moosonee Puppy Rescue. And I met some wonderful people there. Sharon and Paul run this thing. They are the most incredible people I've ever met in my life. They gave me Flint. And so Flint was...
How old was he then?
Flint was just a puppy. He was a couple months old, and he just...
What kind of dog? He looks like a border collie.
He was a little collie and probably a little Siberian Husky. We're not really sure because in Moosonee and these communities, you get a lot of different dogs interacting with each other. So the other dog we had, which is Bella, which I don't have a portrait, we still think there was probably some coyote or some wolf in that dog. You know, it was a 15 years of a little stressful. You know, I mean, you know, nobody would have taken this dog. And Bella was from actually a place called Attawapiskat, which is even further north from Moosonee. So what we did is to get her into Moosonee, she was flown in a bush plane, a little puppy in a bush plane, and then from Moosonee, Ontario, they were put onto it's called the Polar Bear Express. And I don't know if anyone's ever taken that up there. It's fantastic. So from the Polar Bear Express all the way down to Bracebridge, and I said Sharon and Paul have adopted, have gotten about, I can't tell you how many dogs into family stuff, incredible people. So if you get a chance, check out the Moosonee Puppy Rescue. It's incredible if you're looking for a dog. This was the most special dog. They're unbelievable dogs. They're beautiful dogs.
And you know, geez, it took you a half an hour, that's all.
You know, it's just sometimes, again, if somebody is a painter out there and they're doing something, it either happens really quickly or it doesn't. I've painted over hundreds of paintings, and I've spent a month on something, and then all of a sudden I just look at it and I said, you know what, it just isn't good enough, and it gets painted over.
You know, we talk about that's a portrait, basically.
It is a portrait.
Something this creature. I watched you around your dogs, and very special to you. But there are a lot of people I know that you paint portraits, family portraits. And you get a lot of demand for family. You get a lot of demand for pet portraits too?
A lot of pet portraits, especially around Christmas time.
Yeah.
They'll send me photographs. I've done a lot, actually. Most of my business is doing this, was doing pet portraits for people. You know, it's really, again, it's something to have around the house for the rest of your life. And when you talk to a dog person, you know, I've had people cry. You know, it's really emotional sometimes if they've lost a dog.
What goes through your mind when you look at that?
Oh, just pure love. I mean, he hangs over my bed. No, it's just absolute love. I mean, anyone who's had a dog, and if you're a real dog person, just unconditional love.
You know mine.
Freddie. I know yours, you know, and
I think everybody knows about Freddie and about our bird, Allie, who is 24 years old. She's a Moluccan a cockatoo.
Yeah.
And she's going to outlive me and my wife. We know that. So we've sort of willed her to my oldest son because she may live to be 60, 70, 80 years old. And I think you got to bear that in mind as you get older. And you know, at my age now, maybe I feel that strongly towards Freddie. Not only is he just affectionate, beautiful little dog, he's a Shih Tzu, by the way. The word doesn't sound right.
No, it doesn't sound
right. But I'll take a Shih Tzu any day.
And how attached have you become to that dog?
Oh, he sleeps with us, he eats with us. My wife, I'll be honest, my wife feeds him by hand. How silly do you get as you get older? His water is filtered, so Freddie's got a good home. And I've always said, though, in our case, if I came back as a pet, I would want my wife to be the owner because she just treats the animals like she does our grandchildren. And by the way, you know what I think about grandchildren? If I knew they would be so great, I would have been better to my kids. You know. Bring us another painting.
Okay.
That was beautiful.
Let's change the mood a bit. What do you think?
You know what? I want to see something. You do a lot of portraits of guys like Waylon Jennings and yeah, I want to see that because I want to ask you what inspires you to pick certain people. I tell you, by the way, you stay tuned here because you're going to learn something on how to get started as a painter, as an artist. There are ways to get started. This is what happens in life as you get older. You move into a second career. Mine was writing, and then I got into motivational speaking and got a chance to travel all over the world. Wow! But we're going to talk about that later on. But let's start
with the portrait. My favorite country and western artist, I think a lot of people, is Willie Nelson, and everyone just loves Willie Nelson. So I started doing these.
What's not to love about Willie Nelson? You know what? He's such a good person. This guy did time.
Yeah.
This guy at one
The
time
Army-
was,
Army guy?
was drugs and things. They got his life together. I think Willie Nelson's not just an icon. He's one of those beloved people out there.
Absolutely.
Because he loves everybody.
Yeah.
He doesn't care about your color, your race, your religion. He's just a nice person.
Well,
That's a beautiful
he was in
portrait.
Toronto about a few years ago. I got a chance to see him.
Did you?
It was fantastic. And what was interesting was after the show, he came out. Everyone's gone. He came out and he was hanging around with people, signing autographs and talking to them. It took all the time in the world. I think he's a really special guy. I think when he's gone, it's going to be one of the last icons.
You know, it's funny you say that because I've had the pleasure over years of interviewing so many well-known people and famous people, and I particularly remember two of them the most. One was Frankie Valli, the Four Seasons, and he was surprised that when I interviewed Frankie, I began to tell him about himself. Your real name is Frankie Castelluccio. You're from Newark, New Jersey. You started with the Four Lovers, and your first song was The Apple of Your Eye. He looks at me and says, "What are you, a cop or something? You know more about me than you." And then the second guy I interviewed, and my wife and I just fell in love with him. He was sweeter than his music. That was Smokey Robinson. You know, when you meet these people like that, you see, I mean, he was so warm, you could feel it coming from him. But Willie Nelson, I have to put him in that class. How long did it take you to do that painting?
You know, you're going to laugh again. This probably took within half an hour, an hour.
What do you do? Do you get a photograph, or do you get is it in your mind, or what happens? How do you create
A
that?
couple of things. Usually it is a photograph because I don't know him. I don't have enough. It would be great to sit down with him and shoot him how I want to shoot him. But a lot of the times when I do take a photograph, I do change it around a lot. And I look for something that's got some kind of character and mood. I can see the guy's personality. And I always love this one. It felt like Willie Nelson to me. And one of the interesting things I've done as a musician, you know that country music is basically 3 chords. That's the joke. There's a story about Hank Williams when he was looking for a guitar player, and the guitar player said to Hank Williams, he said, "Hank, I only know like 3 chords." And Hank says, "Well, what else is there?" So what I tried to bring into the paintings is the idea of 3 chords, that you can make so many songs, so many wonderful songs in the same 3 chords. I'm only using 3 colors here. So what I did was I started thinking about that, and I thought, oh, it's interesting. So I went to a few other paintings. Merle Haggard, I know everyone's got to know Merle Haggard, from Muskogee and Fight Beside Me.
And these are icons.
I saw him just before he died too. It was incredible. I was in Kitchener, I think. Phenomenal. I mean, these guys are pros. These guys get on stage and it sounds like they're listening to the album. They're buttoned down. They don't make any mistakes. And he plays fiddle. He plays a lot of different music things too. So I always loved Merle Haggard. He's always been one of my favorites. From Merle and Willie, you've got to know Chris Christopherson.
Help him make it through the night.
And me and Bobby McGee.
Yeah, I mean,
you listen to that. What's your favorite? You know what my favorite line in that song is? I would trade all my tomorrows for a single yesterday. Isn't that powerful? I would trade that for a single yesterday.
Well, that's okay if that's what you want to do, but I'll take tomorrow because I know I'm alive.
Well, he wrote that, and again, Janis Joplin.
Yeah.
So, same thing.
I had a chance to run with him. He was here shooting a movie years back, and he stayed at the, I'm trying to remember the radio station I worked for them. It might have been 640,
Okay.
but at any rate, he was staying at the Sutton Place on, what do you want? Hold it up? All right, hold it up a bit there, side of that. There you go. Again, folks, we just have a man multitasking back there named Sean. Sean, come here for a second. Just come up here and say hi. Come up here and say hi.
Nice shot.
And he was at the I forget where it was. Sutton Place.
Okay.
And here's the thing, he's a big fight fan. And so, huge fight fan. So we took him to a fight that particular night, and of course the champ was there, George Chabello. And all these girls just started fussing and trying to give him get their autograph. This is when we came out of Sutton Place. So one girl, she's about 16, 17 years old. She said, "So Chris, what room are you in?" And He said, oh, honey, how old are you? She said, I'm old enough. He said, you're just a little girl. He said, I can't mess with you. And he looked at me and he laughed. We went to the fights. We had a wonderful time with them. And I've met him a couple times. We're not friends, but I admire him. He's great in the movies, and he's a songwriter and a singer. That's great, man.
Well, this was part of, with Willie Nelson, there's also Waylon Jennings, and I had Johnny Cash.
I got to see that Waylon Jennings
Okay,
one.
so
Bring
let's
that up.
go. So,
Waylon Jennings.
Well, this was all part of, they played the Highwaymen.
Yes.
And that's when I did the whole series. So I actually have all 4 of them as different panels of the Highwaymen.
And I'll just grab another one here. That's phenomenal to be able to. I've always, I can't even draw. I can't even draw. And this guy is making, oh, this is his second career, folks, by the way. I want to talk to you about that, too. Just before we,
Okay, sorry, let's do
Waylon Jennings.
Waylon Jennings, another one of my favorites.
And you know what? George Chevallo once told me, the great George Chevallo, who fought everybody, said that Waylon Jennings is one of his favorite singers of all time. And I was surprised that George was in the country and western. Then I thought, you know what? We grew up in a time when on the Chum charts or wherever it was, WCHB, CKLW, charts all over the world, they had James Brown be right next to Glenn Campbell, or
remember that,
Ray
yep.
Charles would be next to, who obviously did country too. You had them all on the same chart. Sonny James, Marty Robbins, James Brown, Wilson Pickett, Smokey Robinson, all Jay Black and the Americans, everybody on the same charts. So we were much more exposed to that kind of
Well,
music.
that's why I grew up listening to music. It was always different. And I never separated country from rock or anything. I just, if it's good, it's good. You can't argue with that. And Waylon's another one of the great guys. And this one here is an interesting guy. A lot of people will know who this is. A lot of people don't know who this guy is.
Well, let me guess. Show it to me without telling me.
Okay.
Oh, wait a minute. Don't tell me. Oh, it's not Dylan.
No, it's Townes Van Zandt.
Who?
And Townes Van Zandt. So look him up.
Townes?
Townes Van Zandt.
How do you spell Townes?
Townes.
Townes Van Zandt. Okay, tell me about it.
Z-A-N-T. Incredible, incredible writer. Seriously, if you want to listen to someone who's incredible, look him up on YouTube. Listen to some of the stuff. It's really, really powerful music. I did a commission of him for somebody in Texas, because a lot of the Americans like the country music stuff. A lot of stuff that I do get sent down to the U.S. So what happened was, after they sent me a vinyl album of this guy, because I'd never heard of him, and he said, I can't believe you've never heard of Townes Van Zandt. So I put Townes on it, and I'm stunned. It's become my favorite record. It really is incredible. He's an incredible, incredible musician. Well, a musician and writer more than anything.
Was he Canadian? American?
No, he's American. Passed away, young guy, like a lot of them seem to. And this is, I keep this up in my studio when I'm playing guitar. I find it really inspirational, and it's one of the old, what they did with the Mona Lisa, where Da Vinci, where the eyes follow you around. So it does sort of the same thing. So he's always.
You know what he said to the Mona Lisa? Keep your hands off me.
Who said Da Vinci?
Yeah.
Well, you know the story of watched. I always thought it was funny.
Da Vinci.
Da Vinci, he came to the Mona Lisa. Or
Was
Joe.
he about 5 foot or who?
No, we're talking about Michelangelo.
Okay,
Michelangelo's
Michelangelo,
like just under 5 feet. He was a small.
A little taller than you.
A little taller than me. I'm 4'9". I'm hitting 5 feet. All us Italian guys are small. You know, we're all short. So no. So we were talking about Da Vinci. Richard Michelangelo. Yeah, Michael.
We were talking about the one who was short.
Michelangelo was a short sculptor, and he painted the Sistine Chapel in the Last Judgment. He did.
So what you're saying is, folks,
That's
height
right.
ain't got nothing to do with talent.
Yes, nothing.
Or size has nothing to do with
No,
talent.
absolutely nothing.
Color has nothing to do with talent. It's all in you, a creative spirit. Bring it out.
And I encourage, look up Michelangelo, look at some of his work, read some of it he wrote. He was a phenomenal writer. People didn't know he was a writer. He wrote sonnets, he wrote stuff. He grew up in, when he was 12 years old, he grew up in the Medici Palace with the Medici family in Florence. He was really
Medici family.
Medici, yeah, they ran pretty much Florence.
That's a good French name. Is that an Irish name?
It's yeah, Irish and it's Irish Italian, I think, in Florence. So no, he was a very, very smart, intelligent man. Didn't like anybody. He used to constantly get into fights with him.
Who did?
Michelangelo would argue with.
Wait a minute, how big was he again?
He was under 5 feet.
Yeah, they had that complex. I knew guys like that, like Edward G. Robinson and James Cagney. Those guys were small, but you know, in the movies they put Audie Murphy, the most decorated. By the way, Audie Murphy, all those great Western, the most decorated man in the history of the American military was about 5'2", and they used to put him on books and boxes to make him look bigger when he kissed people. You know what I mean? Hey, can I ask you this?
Absolutely.
I want to talk about a lot of them. I want to ask you how. When do you remember doing your first painting, or what inspired you? How old were you? But first of all, do you do any portraits on athletes? Because I know you love sports.
I do. I don't think we have any of them here. Actually, I do have. I have two of them here.
I see them.
Two of my favorite baseball players.
Yeah, go ahead, bring them up.
There's no Blue Jays, but we'll do that next.
I like that. My favorite baseball player of all time, folks. I'll tell you right now before he comes back up here right now. My favorite bring it up here. I want to tell him. My favorite baseball player of all time, the great center fielder for the San Francisco Giants, Willie Mays. I love a lot of baseball players, but Willie Mays was my guy growing up. Loved him.
No, I don't have Willie Mays, but close enough.
Well, you know what? I'll forgive you.
It's Jackie Robinson.
Oh, boy, Jackie Robinson.
He's a terrific
Wow.
guy.
What inspired you to do Jackie over?
Kind of great human being. I mean, that's what it is. It doesn't matter what they do for a living. I mean, if you're kind of painting a country and western stars, they're incredible people and they inspire you. You look for what they've been through in life, and you try to get some of that out of the painting. You hopefully you can create some of that.
That's beautiful.
Yeah, and
Jackie Robinson.
this is one color. It's just basically one color. It's I don't use different color paints. I used to do a lot of color. I still do, but I like to.
Do you remember his number?
Yeah, you know what I did?
42?
Was it for? I took it off on.
I believe it was 42.
Was it 42?
It was 42.
Yeah.
And Chadwick Boseman played him.
Wow.
In the movie, and he just passed away. Just left us. A brilliant actor at 44 years old. But Jackie Robinson. Do you know that Jackie Robinson was the oldest Rookie of the Year in history of the Major Leagues? Not only the first black person to play in the Major Leagues, he became the first Rookie of the Year. I mean, the oldest Rookie of the Year. He was 28 or 29. He used to steal home and do all that kinds of stuff. And you know what? He deserves so much credit and so much love for. I mean, when you look at baseball, what he had to go through, he went through hell.
Yeah, of course. A lot of it.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
And again, it's just one color. I think
I like it. Beautiful. Beautiful. You got another one down there?
I have another one of another. You'll probably recognize it.
Hank Aaron. You know what?
Hank Aaron.
Hank Aaron. The one thing I didn't like about Hank Aaron, I couldn't call him a womanizer, but he was. You remember back in years when he was chasing the babe? That was for the home run record.
Speaking of,
I thought it was funny.
we have the
Yeah. The Bambino, Babe Ruth.
one color, just blue. You don't need.
No, why you never saw him play actually?
Oh,
But
of course
he
not.
says one of your favorite ball. I don't think you saw Robinson play.
Well, of course, no, not at my game. But they're incredible people. When you start reading a little bit about these people, when you start to realize what they've been through, what they've accomplished, it
Babe
doesn't
Ruth
matter.
came from a mythical time in baseball.
Yeah.
And he was from the days of Jack Dempsey and Harry Greb and all Jack Johnson and all the greats.
Do you want to hear a funny story? So this weekend I was reading an article in an old magazine from 1950s. I think it was, they were talking about sports, and I didn't realize this, and there was a guy who, what he did for a living, he was a professional autographer. I guess that's so this is interesting. That's what he did for a living.
Professional fraud.
For example, yeah, absolutely. No, I mean, it wasn't a fraud. He would be hired by celebrities, and they would say, "Look, I've got 500 or 1,000 of these things I got to send out." So he would mimic.
Wow.
So what's really interesting when I read that, and I'm a big fan of American Pickers, Pawn Stars, all those shows, and they're always coming with.
What kind of stars?
American Pickers.
And what's the other one?
What did I just say? Pawn Stars. I'm sorry, Pawn Stars.
I thought you said
love-
something else. Starts with a P, but no, we're not going there, are we?
I'm not sure what that was, but no, it was Pawn Stars.
Pawn Stars,
But
yeah.
what's interesting is they're always getting these autographs by these people. And what is so a Babe Ruth autograph is worth a lot of money. But now if you think about it, they said that almost 90% could be fake that were signed by this guy.
Isn't that
Something
something?
interesting, and it's not just Babe Ruth. It was a lot of people back in those days because say Babe Ruth couldn't sign 1,000 pieces of, say, photographs in space, so they would hire this guy, so Babe Ruth would do a signature and they would just copy it. So if you got Babe Ruth signatures, you might want to have, take a look at it. And I
Or other ones.
Oh, a lot of
Maybe
other
Bobby
ones.
Orr, who knows?
He was more in the late into the 50s movie stars, like a lot of the black and white stuff that we talked about, like, you know, Debbie Reynolds, all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
that's what he did. He would just sit there and sign 1,000 sheets of same thing over and over again because they couldn't do it. Wow, interesting.
There's something, and Babe Ruth was more than a ball player. He was a character.
Yeah.
And you miss that in baseball, the characters with the nicknames. I remember growing up, there was Sugar Ray Robinson.
Yeah.
Willie Mays was a Say Hey Kid. Then they had Stormin' Norman Cash, played for the Detroit Tigers. Stormin' Norman, well, that's not Stormin' Norman, my other friend, Stormin' Norman Rumack, who worked with me at the Fan 590. But the nicknames were always there back in the day. I remember them calling Jack Dempsey the Manassa Mauler. And then you had Harry Greb. A lot of people know who Harry Greb is, but he was called the Pittsburgh Windmill. Then you had Homicide Hank, who was a featherweight, a lightweight, and welterweight champion of the world. And this guy was perpetual motion. He wouldn't stop from 1 round to 15 rounds. He'd just keep coming at you. He don't give you a chance to rest. And I love those nicknames.
Well, what do you think? How do you think Babe? I wonder how Babe came out, or the Bambino? I mean, the
Bambino.
Bambino's Italian for Babe. I mean,
Yeah.
I wonder where
I
that
want to
came
call
from.
him Babe, but I tell you, we got to look that up. But this guy was phenomenal. He started out as a pitcher, and the pitcher only pitches every 3 or 4 games. With that bat, you got to have him in there every day. And I think Boston, the curse when they traded into the Yankees, whoa, boy. But you know, when Hank Aaron was chasing his record, he was getting calls, life-threatening calls from people who hated the fact that this American icon, his record was getting to be about to be broken. And you know something, that Babe, I should say, I remember in an article or an interview or something along them lines where Hank Aaron said, "I never want to go through this again." But that wasn't the Babe's fault.
No.
But how many movies have been made about Babe Ruth? This guy was just
It's a recent one too. Wasn't it with what's his name? Goodman? Was it John Goodman? Did he-
Yeah, he played it, yes.
Yeah.
Anyway, so we saw that one. Hey, I want to see that last one there. There's one there. I see the one there on the boxer.
Oh, boxer. I brought that
Yeah,
from you.
because that's the one thing I've had a lot of dogs. I've always admired the boxers, but I've never had a boxer as a dog, as a companion. So that's now what inspired you to do this one?
You know, to be honest, it was just a really interesting picture. This one, and I can't remember if I did this for somebody. You know, sometimes you see, there's so much stuff in my studio, I can't even remember half of the stuff. I've always liked this one. I like boxers. I love every single dog. I like all dogs. I like dogs, specifically ones that are kind of cute. I like cute dogs. It just had a really nice looking face on it. And I thought it would be
They
appropriate.
have that character in that face. Beautiful, fond.
They're beautiful dogs.
How long did it take you to do that painting?
I hate to say probably within an hour, I think.
But now, if someone approaches you and commissions you to do a painting like that, is it more difficult than?
It's always difficult painting other people's dogs. Yeah, absolutely, because you don't know the dog. With Flint, I know that dog. I knew the dog really well. I knew his character. What happens is when you have a photograph, a lot of times I get these photographs from people, and they're usually shot on the phone. They're too small. So when you enlarge these things, you can't really see the detail on the face. And I've always believed that if you can't capture the eyes, that's where the soul is. That's what you need to capture. But as far as it's like anything, I think in one of these portraits, I think when you look at it, it's always the eyes that reveal personality. Right?
I had a portrait done on me a couple of years, about 5 or 6 years ago, and it's on the wall in our living room. Everywhere you go, those eyes follow you, even haunts me. How does that happen?
It's actually, I don't want to ruin it for everybody, but if you go back and you're talking about the Mona Lisa, and that's what everyone said, when you walk around the room, it looks like it's following you. It's a simple trick, I will tell everybody, but when you do your eyes, if you take your 2 highlights, when you're looking at my eyes, those 2 little dots, if you put them in the center, like you don't, for example, wherever the highlights are, you center those two highlights, like Count Van Zandt. Let me just show you here. So I'll just show you that. So what happens is, if you notice that the highlights are in the same spot, almost exactly the same spot. So no matter where you stand, if you're standing there, wherever you walk, the eyes will follow you around. It's just an old artist trick, but I should have told anyone.
Now, that's
I'm the
okay.
artist, you come after me now. So, yeah, so that was the box.
Put them down, and now we're gonna, how much time we got, Sean? 10 minutes? 15 minutes? 15 minutes. All right. You gonna come up here and say hello?
Some coffee.
So, now, a couple things I want to talk about. First of all, how long have you been painting?
I've been painting since I can remember. I think we talked about this on my porch. I remember the very first time I picked up, it was a ballpoint pen. Because back in the early 60s, when my parents would go shopping, we had paper bags, if you remember. So, not having a ton of money, I would take the paper bags and cut the paper bags up, those brown things. And I would sit at the kitchen table with a ballpoint pen and just
Lunch bags?
Just lunch bags, grocery bags.
Yeah.
Remember, you can always paper. And I would just draw on those. I just cut sheets out. Paper was expensive back then. Pens and stuff. We didn't really have tons of money and stuff. So I would just use whatever was there. If I found a piece of scrap paper at the back of anything, mostly my school books. So all my notebooks were usually just completely covered.
Everybody had the brown bankers back then. That's crazy when you think of it. And for younger people, they probably don't remember. Sort of the baby boomers and some of the older millennials will remember that. And my mother used to always tell us, bring that bag home at the end of the day. You better bring that bag home or don't come home.
Yeah.
It was like that bag was precious.
But it was. It wasn't in a way. When you don't have a lot of money, it is precious. And people, unfortunately, these days we tend to throw. We're a disposable society. We throw everything out. And I always wondered, if you brought bags back, paper bags, is it better for the environment? You're destroying more trees. But considering what the alternative with these plastic bags, and if you've seen some of the stuff in the water, I mean, it'd be interesting to analyze it and find out what's the better route.
Well, I think it's a better route with the paper bags, personally.
We, at home, recycle everything. We've gone months with no garbage. That's how much we recycle.
Really?
Everything. Every single thing gets recycled. Bags get washed, but everything is recycled. I can't bear to put stuff.
There's a guy that's really concerned about the future for our children.
I've told you I spend a lot of time up north, and I see people driving down the highway, and window opens up, and there's a beer can comes flying out of a pickup truck, and I don't understand
Or you're driving to the park and you see somebody's throwing out their McDonald's
it's always
or their coffee cups and things like that. Yeah, that's terrible. But back to painting now. What would you suggest to people out here who, as we said on the show, listen, what we really want you to do is make each day count. And when I say make each day count, I mean like do something. Do something productive, do something creative.
Absolutely.
So that you just don't waste a day. Read a book, write a book. I think everybody has a story. You're writing a book now. You're contemplating, you're putting notes and everything together to write
I've
a
got
book.
I have one thing I'm working on right now. I actually do a book years ago too with one of my ex-partners, a guy called Bruce McDonald, he's actually a well-known writer on the West Coast now.
Bruce, you got a plug if you're watching. All right now.
Yeah, and he knows I miss him. He's been gone for a while.
That's right, he's out in the
He's
East
up on
Coast.
the West Coast. On the West Coast.
Okay.
No, so a couple of things in the go. One of them is specifically about art and art history. I find art history probably one of the most boring.
Art Garfunkel or you mean
art history, as in
Okay.
as in the history of art. Look, any high school student, anybody taking art, once you get into art history, it's really boring. It really is. It just happens to be boring. So I just wanted to take it, flip it around a bit, and make it interesting. Make it interesting to a younger audience. You get them to understand that there's you can do other things with your life. That art does exist. So yeah, working on that. I'm constantly working. I don't think there's a day goes by I'm not doing something. I'll be in my garage building something, stripping furniture, gardening. There's always something to do, and I just hate sitting still.
And you were commissioned to do a portrait of a good friend of mine by the name of Gordon Lightfoot.
I heard of him. I did hear. No, easy.
Folks, Gordon, if you don't know Gordon Lightfoot is probably Canada's most famous songwriter. I mean, not just singer. I mean, Gordon's a little older than I am, but you know, I mean, if you could read my mind, and that's my favorite song by him. If you could read my mind, but he had so many other ones.
Atlantis with Gerald and
Yeah.
all this stuff. You just start going back. And I listen to all the vinyl. I've got a huge collection.
I know you do.
I just love vinyl. And I've got all of Gord's albums and one of the Gord's Gold, which I'm hoping to get signed.
Yeah, so you were commissioned to do a portrait, and what was your mind at that time?
Well, as you know, he's done a lot to help the organization, and I wanted to capture. It was interesting. The portrait is actually on my Instagram. Can I mention my Instagram? I don't know if I can mention my Instagram.
Absolutely.
It's Mr. Flint Art, Flint Art, and he's on there. There's a portrait of Gordon. One of my favorite guys.
Give that up once more.
Oh, Mr. Flint Art, MrFlintArt.
And Flint is Flint?
Like our man.
Like in like Flint?
In like Flint. Well,
James
that's
Colburn.
my dog. Well,
James Colburn, you named him after in like Flint?
In like Flint.
Wasn't that James
It was
Colburn?
James Colburn. And
Yeah, that's right.
if we were off there, I'll tell you another interesting story about Colburn. And my wife's probably watching. And so we were talking about Gordon Lightfoot. Now, it was a nice way to give back and say thank you. And what was interesting about that portrait specifically is now, you know, we do see him as an older man. Where do you find the right image? Like, where do you look and say, okay, this is the right image to represent him? Because I think on the video too, he said I made him look a lot younger. But that's how we remember him. You know, I don't see an old man. I see Gordon Lightfoot. It's like anything in life. We were all aging, but he's Gordon Lightfoot. And I picked the photograph that I used. I think with a couple of photographs together, and just try and express the soul.
I had the honor of presenting that portrait to him, and I remember, and it was held up at the club called the Sheridan Hotel in downtown Toronto, the Cambridge Club. And I got to tell you, the look on his eyes.
He seemed genuinely touched. It was really nice.
He was touching. He said one of the finest portraits he's ever seen. But how long did it take you to do that? And were you overwhelmed or anything? Or
Yes,
how did you feel?
I was really overwhelmed because it's Gordon Lightfoot, and people are looking at this. And what's really funny is we discussed that portrait, I think, a few months in advance. And I don't know if I ever told you what happened behind that portrait. Same thing. You procrastinate. So I think I was away. I can't remember what happened, but I know that I had about a month or two. And I
So that was you presented to him just before COVID hit.
Right.
And that's what made it so, I mean, you know, or he wouldn't have got it. And I remember he was there with his beautiful wife and manager, and we just had a wonderful time. But when we brought it out, like eyes just lit up. I thought, you know, wow, I got to tell. And we asked for videos on it. I said, Mario's got to see this.
Post this. But what was funny was, you know, you said you had a couple of months before the event. I said, it's plenty of time, right? And as artists, we procrastinate and we wait and we wait. So about, I think it was about a week before we had to present it to him that I started to panic. And you know, I really got to sit down and paint this picture. So sat down. I think I did it. I hated it, wiped it out, went away, went and did something, and then I came back, and I think it was about 3 days or 2 days, because remember I said to you it was still wet.
Yeah.
We discussed it, and I said it's still wet, so it was about 2 days before.
And I thought you left it out in the rain.
No, like 2 days before, and I thought, you know, I really better sit down and finish this thing. And with Gordon, what happened is the first, and I actually have a picture I'll show you, the first 4 or 5 strokes, I went, there you go, that's it. And it just was easy. It was easy after that. But it's also easy because you love doing it. If it was a job, you know, you approach it differently. But when you love the man, you love the music, you love everything about, you know, the icon, this Canadian icon.
He is, but you've also did one on another icon you're doing, Jimi Hendrix.
Jimi Hendrix is a 5x5 foot huge painting I'm working on right now too. I'm always like Jimi Hendrix.
Yeah.
But what's interesting with Hendrix, I didn't listen to him as much when I was younger. And now that I play a little bit of guitar, just playing chords, I start to understand how brilliant the guy was. A genius, and I still can sit there and listen to his album, and I go, I don't understand where this is coming from. I mean, he's at one with this guitar.
And people think that, well, he was a rock guitarist. No, he was
No.
classical and everything, but rock was the way to go because that's where the money was. It's like George Benson. I mean, the guy was jazz. A lot of people thought, George sold it out because he went from jazz to pop. No, George had to pay bills, and
A lot of us do.
had to pay. I mean, I look how many bills I have to pay. Bill the bartender, bill the loan shark.
The idea of an artist,
Did you catch that?
I just want to get back. I didn't want to bring it up, but much gets finer. So no, the idea of an artist living, off on their own in some places, it's not real. I mean, very, very few artists will be in a good gallery and making a lot of money. I mean, it's hard. I paint because I want to, and I paint for myself, and my biggest audience is me. If I don't like it, it doesn't leave my studio. And that's all you can do. You have to do things for yourself, not to try and do it to make money. That's
And if the money comes, it's beautiful.
fantastic, absolutely.
That's true.
Well, you're blessed. All of a sudden, I'm painting a painting of somebody, and you're getting paid for it. Fantastic. But it's not the money. It can't be the drive that takes you.
One of the things, though, that I've noticed that works for you well are family portraits, or portraits of mothers and fathers or whole families. Now, what would if somebody is interested in perhaps having a portrait done of their father, their mother, their grandfather, somebody that they cherish, and somebody they want to love, somebody they love. How do they get in touch with you? You got
Mr. Flint Art on Instagram. Just go on that. You can direct message me right from there. We can talk about it, look at photographs. I can suggest stuff. Sometimes a great picture does not make a great painting. Yeah, that's what's interesting. And sometimes I say to people, if you got a beautiful photograph of your dad, your mom, whatever, why are you painting it if it's already there? So I think what I like to do is take those images and bring a bit more to it. Because as an artist, that's what you do. You're not a photographer, you're an artist. So I'm going to look at a portrait of you, could easily take a picture.
I think there's something more special about a portrait to me that is painted by an artist. There's something about it. That painting that was done to me, that portrait, I got family members fighting over it. They want to know who's going to get it. When I finally, kick the bucket, who's going to take it? I mean, and that happens. Well, how much time we got left, Sean? We got 5 minutes left. Anything else you want to know?
If anyone's interested in dogs or people or whatever, like I said, Mr. Flint Art on Instagram, they can get a hold of me. We can discuss it. I usually get a bit busy during Christmas because everybody waits till the end of the year. That's it. I mean, there's other stuff on the site. Take a look.
I noticed too when I was in your studio, which was in your home. You got all these vinyl cuts instead of. Most people are using CDs, or you still have the vinyl now. You have your music on when you're painting.
It's on 24 hours, almost 24 hours a day. It would be on while I was sleeping. I just can't stop listening to it. It's inspirational. Music is inspiration. Everything around you should take inspiration from.
I walk in this place one day. Check what he's doing. He's got Wilson Pickett on. You remember Wilson Pickett? The Midnight Hour, Mustang Sally. All those great, the wicked Wilson Pickett.
You're always trying to stop me on that. I go, no, I love Wilson Pickett. I love all the Motown stuff.
And then the next time I come in, he's got Willie Nelson on. Then another time you got Glenn Campbell on. You might have Eddie James on. That you have such a diverse taste in music.
And you look at some of this it's all so good. You don't have enough time in our life to listen to it all. And I can't stand
I like the way you said you don't need enough time to listen to it. And good music, I found today a lot of young people are restricted, confined to a certain type, maybe rap, mostly rap, whereas you're missing out. I'm not knocking rap. I'm saying some of the rappers are the greatest poets of our time.
Absolutely.
What I'm saying is there's nothing to me more beautiful than a love song.
But they were influenced by people too. People forget.
Well, James Brown was one of the biggest influences.
Well, you remember the James
Marvin Gaye.
We did a huge James Brown was sold out in the East Coast.
Absolutely.
The one that you remember,
Yes.
and it's on the site too. Another quick story. Hank Snow, who's one of my favorite Canadian.
Yes, tell us about that.
Well, the Hank Snow Museum in Nova Scotia, I actually did a portrait for them of Hank Snow. It's hanging there right now, so I know with this COVID thing, nobody's traveling. But if you get to Nova Scotia, check out the Hank Snow Museum. Another incredible artist, Johnny Cash, loved him. They talk about all the Highwaymen. They loved Hank Snow. and you mentioned Hank Snow to someone in Canada, I don't know what you're talking about. I said, well,
He was Canadian.
he's a Canadian boy. Yeah, he did become an American.
Yeah, but he was born
And his
here.
famous song was "I've Been Everywhere, Man," and it's a
I've
song
been
being covered
everywhere,
by Johnny
man.
Cash.
I've been everywhere, boy.
I've been everywhere, man.
Yeah, okay, I
And
like
tried
that.
it, and he would sing these lyrics. Watch him you watch some of these old '50s on YouTube, and he's just blabbing this thing out, and you're like, how do you remember this? Johnny Cash loved him.
We got about a minute left, right? So, listen, first of all, thank you for coming in.
Thank you for having me. It's been an honor.
Really a pleasure. And once again, if they need to get in touch with you,
Mr. Flint Art on Instagram. And you know, I'm on Instagram. I'm off Facebook. Instagram is just it's a better medium for what I do.
Yep.
Facebook works for other people because it's a visual medium. So, Mr. Flint Art, check it out.
and by the way, folks, very quickly, if you need to touch base with me and perhaps bring up some issues or subjects you want to talk about, I'm open, spiderjones@rogers.com, and on Instagram, Spider, what is that underneath?
Your hashtag?
No, SpiderJones1. That's it, SpiderJones1. And thank you for joining us. We're going to do it next Monday from 7 till 8 o'clock right here on the Spider Jones Show on Future Stars Media. Be sure to tune in. Next week we're going to talk about how to keep fit as you grow older. We're going to have some great guests on. And I want you to do something this week. Bring it in. I want to tell them before you go. I got to tell you. I got to ask you. Do something challenging. Do something positive. Read a book. Sing a song. Write. Do things to keep positive. Until next time, this is the lovable one, Spider Jones, saying, have a great